Years that you've been here?
There's so much water gone under the bridge, really. It's quite an amazing time, really. And it's something I'm really proud of, I've got to say, in my career. But it's, we've got to move forward now. It's just, I thought last week when I saw, Burnley on a Sunday afternoon and over 30,000, it was, I think, incredible, really. The fans have really taken it on board. And I think that's my biggest achievement. I think getting the club together now. It was a little bit fragmented when I came, and I think that's putting everybody together and all supporting the club. It's a fabulous feeling now. All I've got to do now is get some results to make them even more happy.
Yeah, I was going to say, despite the results, you still feel that the club and the team, the squad's really together?
Yeah, they are. I mean, I think I don't know how we didn't win last week, but that's life in the Premier League. You just got to get on with it. It was a positive performance, other than the result, and I thought once again the fans as well were superb, and I'm sure we'll be filling whatever we're allowed to fill at Wembley, because that's what they have been pretty amazing away from home as well.
You defied expectations by taking Cardiff City up. I mean, you took them really from perhaps relegation to League One to the Premier League. Now people are saying Cardiff City, they won't stay up this season. Do you think you can prove people wrong again? I think people, intelligent people as well, know the situation that we're in, and it's going to be very difficult. We know that. And we always did know that. Once we knew at the start, before the season, that we weren't going to be in the market for the type of players that some of the other clubs were in for. But we've got what we've got, and I don't think it's time to sort of start looking at this, that, and the other. We've got some decent players, and we've got to move on and try and get the results with what we've got. We've got a close knitted, a group of players, and I don't think it's been a lack of quality that's cost us the results. I think it's been individual mistakes and errors, which we didn't have last year. And I don't think it's been the quality of the opponents either. I think it's been our own stupid mistakes that's cost us. So it is disappointing because points are so precious in the Premier League to get. I was going to ask you actually about quality, because I read the interview you did with Wales Online, which was really interesting to read about your 2 years. And you said about the summer transfer window this week that you did want a striker, that extra striker. I know you bought Bobby Reid, who's been sort of playing that role. Why didn't you get one? Why didn't that materialise in the summer?
We just couldn't get it over the line, really. There were all sorts of different things, as you're aware, agents push everybody in. But there were 3 or 4 really good targets that we went close to. I thought, the chairman spoke to a couple of clubs, and I thought we were really close to the line, but we just couldn't quite get the terms agreed, everything, either the player or the club, etc. And it just one of those things, we couldn't get him over the line, and it got very close even with the midfield lads. I think we were 10 minutes from the deadline to get the midfield lads. I mean, I don't know where we'd have been without those 2 lads coming in. So it wasn't for the lack of trying. It's just you're in a different world when you're trying to sign players in the Premier League. And today with the money situation, what does get you an average player in the Premier League? You've only got to look at the sort of money that's been spent, really, and that's I'm not saying money's everything, but I just feel that missing out on that striker did detract from what we've got, really, because I think we have got a decent squad. You just need that striker to finish it off, really.
You said you want 3 or 4 new additions possibly in the new year as well. So right now, with what you've got, with these strikers, let's just say you had this lot till the end of the season. Is there?
I don't like you saying this lot.
In the nicest possible way.
Thank you.
Group of players.
Yeah, all right.
You've got these players to the end of the season. Have you got enough quality to stay up?
Well, at the minute, I think we are looking. Having looked at the situation for 7 games, I think you've got to say we do need 2 or 3 quality players in that squad. So what we have to do is try and grind the results out until January to enable that to do it. And. Like I said, we've got a good group of lads. We've got to probably try 1 or 2 things to see if we can get goals from other people, other areas, because it's obviously not been a great thing so far. When you look, I didn't realise, but when you look like last season, I looked. I think it was on your programme. Our top scorer last year was 10 goals. So we've not been prolific. I think it's fair to say, even in the Championship. So even harder at this level to do that. But like I say, it's not been the goals that's concerned me. It's been letting them in at the other end, the silly goals. That's last weekend was a fine example of that.
Yeah, well, last weekend I think I read you 20 shots on Burnley's goal, but only 5 of them on target. So what have you been doing in training to sort of hopefully up that ratio and up your chances?
You sound like my owner, Vincent. Vincent wants 30 shots every game. You know, we do work hard on the forward play, as every club does really. But you know, when you look at Liverpool the other night not having one shot, a club like them with the forward line they've got, you know, it's not straightforward. It does look as if it's a simple black and white, but it's not like that in football. What you've got to do is, you know, some people have one shot and they take advantage of that and win 1-0. You know, others have 20 like ourselves and we end up losing a game. So, you know, there's a lot of different ingredients go into the recipe, really.
How are you looking in terms of injuries ahead of Tottenham this weekend?
I don't think we've anything else untoward. I think they're all available as such. You know, the long-term lads are going to be missing. But Gunnarsson's not far away. Hopefully Gunnarsson will be involved against Fulham, I think. So, you know, he's not far away now.
There's been a lot of talk about the pitch at Wembley this week.
It didn't look good, did it?
What do you think of it?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes you get a false impression when you look from above with the cameras. It just looked like the middle part was like Blackpool Beach, isn't it? But it didn't seem to play that badly. So I would imagine when you're down there, it's just after the box and they're trying to just, you know, level it off with sand and the ingredients to make it back to normal, you know. But it didn't look very good. I was really surprised at that. Because going to Wembley in the olden days, it was just like a bowling green, wasn't it? It was unbelievable. You know, it's like playing on a snooker table. That was the thing. I remember when I first started, they asked me my ambitions, you know, and it was to manage in the Premier League, to take a team to Wembley on the hallowed turf. So it's a great thing, and I'm pleased for the fans that, you know, they're going to go there. I'm disappointed it's not the new stadium. When I saw the fixtures and I saw that we were going to go to the new stadium, I was really delighted. You know, at my stadium, because I thought it was, you know, it'd be fabulous to go to the new stadium, but not to be. You know, I think I've said it in the past. White Hart Lane was always my favourite Premier League ground from a manager's point of view. I thought it had everything really, atmosphere-wise, and so it's it was going to be good for me to have a look at the new stadium, but I'm sure it'll be ready for next season.
If the pitch is a little bit dodgy, could that work to your advantage?
What are you trying to say about that? What are you trying to intimate? I don't think so. I mean, I think if they took probably a tractor on it beforehand and plough it up a little bit, it might help. But I don't think it'll be in such a state that it'll affect their players and our players. It might stop my ball players from running with the ball, if that's what you mean.
That's exactly what I meant. But for the players that play at Wembley, even though you're not going to the new stadium, it's a nice occasion for them, isn't it, really, to go there and play in such a stadium?
Well, I mean, you know, we were watching the game the other night, you know, Barcelona at Wembley, and we're there next, you know, next up Cardiff City. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic thing, that what we've done, but I don't want us to go there just to have a day out. I want us to give them a game if I can, you know. I don't... But it is a fabulous stadium and a great treat for the fans. But I mean, when you look at that the other night, I mean, that's all you've got to do to beat Tottenham, isn't it? Have a Messi.
Who will be your Messi then?
Well, I hope Josh Murphy. I hope we'll have to call him Jesse or something, won't we?
Careful. Just a word on Harry Kane. I've got a stat here that he scored against 26 of the 27 different sides he's played against in the Premier League. The only side he's yet to find the net against are Cardiff, albeit he's only played 16 minutes against Cardiff City. So can you stop him?
Well, it'll be a good test for the lads at the back. I mean, they've come up, and I think even they know they've made mistakes elementary. I mean, if you make a mistake with Harry Kane, you're going to get punished. So, but you know, we're quite looking forward to this, if I'm honest. You know, nobody gives us any chance, and I think with the players we've got better players than what people give us credit for. I think Arthur and Victor Camarasi have been excellent so far this season. As you said, Josh has done well. And I think if we can play anything like at the back, it will give us a chance of getting a result.
And in terms of the time to play Tottenham, they had 6 injuries ahead of the Barcelona game. Is this a good time to be playing?
It depends which way you look at it, really, because they've had 6 injuries, but if you look at the squad that they put out, you know, would any of my team get in their team, the team that they put out? You know, you'd have to look at that, and you know that's how good they are in the squad. You know, we've had I think severe injuries really in the situation, even though it's only 2 or 3. Because when you're established like them, you know, they've got people like Harry Winks to come in who's not even in their 25 because he's under 23. We haven't got any of those. So, you know, we're a long way away from establishing, and that's why it's important, if we could, to make sure that this opportunity doesn't get missed by Cardiff and the club of building that academy in the future, you know, because it's so important for the future.
What do you make of Mauricio Pochettino as a manager?
Oh, I think he's super. He's a lovely guy. You know, I've played against him a few times. I've always done quite well against him. I thought at Palace they were very lucky to come away with a draw against us. I think Lloris was unbelievable that day. Hope he didn't have another day like that. So, you know, it's I think his teams they are what you get. I think, you know, you get criticised differently at the top of the league than you do where we are, and they're so close. I mean, I watched the Inter Milan game. I think it was Inter Milan, wasn't it? And they were so good. They should have won that easily. To lose 2 goals in the last few minutes, and then all of a sudden the headlines are entirely different to what they should have been. That's the frustrating part for a manager, when your team plays well and you end up getting stick because you've lost a game and that you should really have won. And that's nothing down to the manager. That was his players that let him down that night. So it is a difficult one. They're a really good, exciting team, and I think with the English lads they've got, we should be proud of people like Pochettino for giving them an opportunity. Not many managers in our league give the youngsters an opportunity, and he loves it. You know, I think he thrives on it, and I think it's great when you have a manager like that. And I'm sure, you know, and no disrespect to Tottenham, I'm sure he'll go on to even higher things in the future.
And just finally, just away from the game for a second, I know you're aware that Jason Rooney did a very short press conference this morning. He seemed perhaps a little bit downbeat. What are your thoughts on what's going on with Mourinho and what's going on with Manchester United at the moment?
If he's downbeat, he ought to come in my office for a couple of hours. And then he can cheer him up. He's not in a bad place, I don't think, really, when you look at their squad. I think he's, you know, it's not easy at any level managing because everybody's an expert, and when you're the type of manager that Jose is, you know, you put yourself up there to, you know, it's like the British press, really, build heroes up, ready to knock them down. That's, I'm afraid, that's how life is in nowadays, and there's always got to be somebody. And at the minute, you know, it's his players are the only people that can get him smiling again, I would think, and they're quite capable of doing that.
What have you found Jose like just to deal with one-to-one? Do you know him well?
I don't know him well. I just think he's always been superb with me, and you know, we contact each other a couple of times a year, and you know, I wish him well. I think he's it's not the same. It's not the Mourinho that you see on the television when you see him behind the scenes. It's like a lot of people like that. You know, I mean, Wenger was fantastic for me, and yet you saw a different Wenger in the cameras. So it's what happens behind the scenes that I like, and you know, I think every manager has the different things. You know, this week I was very disappointed to see the happenings with Steve Bruce, and I don't think any manager should have to tolerate that from supporters. Really, I think that you know, it's very sad like that, and I think that's the part of the football that managers look at, and it's not you. You're glad it's not you, but it's, you know. It shouldn't be happening to somebody like Steve. I think he's done such a great job over the years, and I think he did a decent job there as well. So that's the disappointment for me. Fortunately for me, I know it sounds silly, but we haven't got a win yet, and yet our fans are unbelievable. You know, and if long may it continue, because if they weren't like they were, it would be an impossible at the moment.
Neil, morning. Why do you think the fans are being as they are with Cardiff City? Because as you say, you know, we haven't got the result yet that you would want, but the fans, without exception, certainly when we're talking to them, seem to be what is it? What's that about?
Well, I'm not knocking the English, but it must be just something in the Welsh blood. It must be something in the Welsh blood. They are, you know, if I can say, they do seem to be quite intelligent regarding things, and
We've been in it together. I think we almost feel like, I know it sounds silly, but it's almost like a family. You know, we're in it together. We've had the highs, and in any family you have fallouts and you have disappointments, and you have to overcome certain criteria. You know, the things that happen, and it's almost like they're probably more supportive now than what they were 12 months ago. You know, and it's great for the players because they know the players are giving everything. That's the biggest thing. If they weren't shirking or not trying a leg, I'm sure they would, but they know they're trying. So I think it's an amazing situation. I can't ever remember it happening anywhere else, if I'm honest. That the fans will, and you'll hear them tomorrow. They'll outshout the Tottenham fans tomorrow, however many goes. And I think it's almost like a story in itself. What the fans are doing. I'm sure somebody in the fans should be doing one of those logs or blogs, is it? One of those throughout the season, because I would think it would make an interesting programme where they are, because like I said, Chelsea was unbelievable, and whatever you say, it makes your job tolerable. If it was, you know, the other side of the coin, then you couldn't do your job. It'd be impossible, and you know, that's why I'm so grateful that they are behind us, and like I say, almost like family.
Does it worry you that in the not too distant future they might turn? Does that sort of play on your mind?
Yeah, I don't want it to sour, if I'm honest. I mean, Mehmet, and they know how my feelings are. Are you with me? And they know I've spoke about what we're going to need in January. But I wouldn't want it to sour like that. I don't think football is. You know, I want to enjoy myself. You know, I'm gonna go to Wembley tomorrow and try and get a result against one of the best teams, with a team that's not won a game yet, and you know, and I'm actually looking forward to it. So it's one of those things that you've just got to put behind you, really, and not think too much about that. There's always a small element, but there's not that many at Cardiff. It's an amazing place at the minute. It's you know, I've been really, really proud of not how they've acted, but what they've said as well. You know, what they've said in the media and things like that. And if I don't actually do Twitter, it's just as well, isn't it? Really, probably.
I think you'd be quite happy there as well. Congratulations on the 2 years. Can you put it into context for me about whether it's been the most enjoyable part of your football managing career, and what the highs and lows of that have been? Which I know sounds like a very obvious thing, because most people are going to say, well, the highs going to obviously be promotion. But I don't know, you might see it differently.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest achievement that I've had is actually putting the club back together. Is putting the fans back on side, that they love their club again. They love the Bluebirds, and they're going to support them come what may. And I think that's the biggest achievement, because it was so fragmented when I came to the club. It was, you know, it was difficult. I have a number of highlights. You know, the first game that I arrived, you know, we played local rivals Bristol City on television, and that was an amazing night. And probably my biggest game last season was at Hull City, because we just got beaten at Derby, and everybody wrote us off again. It was a tough Christmas. We were losing every game in December, so there was quite a few things. But when you see fans react to the, you know, the circumstances and the end of last season, you know, you have to look back. You know, we've actually ran before we've even walked. You know, we've got there that quickly. You know, people say too quickly, but you can't turn it down. If you've got a chance to get promotion, you've got to get promotion. You know, unfortunately, we have got there a bit quick. But a lot of big clubs in the Championship wish they could have done that. You know, so it's all right looking. I think when you look back in perspective, it's been an amazing 2 years in my career. Definitely my most difficult, and this was probably my most difficult summer that I've ever had in the season in my career, and I didn't sign that many. Yet it was the most difficult summer in my career, and you know, managing not just the team but upwards as well. It's a big ball game now, and things have changed, and the club has to move on with that. And I'm trying to help the club at the same time, because we do need quite a different structure as well going forward. But like I say, you know, we've got there that quick. We haven't had time to take a breath, really.
How do you assess your own diplomatic skills these days?
Well, I've had to use everything in my locker, I think, over the last couple of years, but it's been enjoyable, you know. Vincent's, you know, as difficult as what he could be as any owner, you know. His heart's in the right place. He wants to do well, really, and whatever the situation, if the time came where he felt that somebody else would be would be a different and a better option, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all, because I've loved every minute of it, mate. So I think, you know, I think when you look at the people like that, I've had a chairman that I've never ever, very rarely had a chairman like this. He's just been the best chairman. I can't put a word about Mehmet. I couldn't have done my job without him, you know, and so it's handling all that and trying to get your players in and trying to get players out. It's been a long slog for me, if I'm honest. And you know, you do, at any manager will tell you, there'll be times in the you know, in the season or what have you, where you look and think, you know, is it worth it at times? Are you with me, the work? But when I look at 30,000 against Burnley and that, and singing like they are, yeah, it is worth it. If I can make them happy, and you know, like I say, I don't want it to sour, so we've got to get our fingers out and get some results to keep them on board till January. And if we don't, then it'll be somebody else's problem, no doubt.
Well, you think that realistically that's what's...
Well, I know every manager's under pressure for that, and you know, you do find nowadays that every big agent is pushing managers' names. You know, I've heard 2 or 3 already mentioned that have been mentioned in my job. You know, but that's you're going to get that, aren't you? Not just me, every manager. I'm sure Josie might have heard 1 or 2.
I suspect he probably has. Is it unsettling as a manager, or have you developed such a thick skin over the years you can just let that bounce off?
Well, you know, you hope that the right people know what's going on, really. You know, that's what I think. I think you can only do your own job, really. What will be at any level, whether you're top level or down below. You don't like anybody. You know, I think the worst thing used to be when the managers you come up and watch the game. The following managers before you've got the sack. I think that's happened to me a couple of times.
That's not diplomatic.
Where you think somebody said, "Did you know I was in the stand today?" And then they get the job. So it's you know, that's not easy to take. But there's a lot worse things in life, isn't there? Yeah. What's the worst scenario? I can go away with Sharon for a few weeks and to Italy or somewhere and have a nice, relaxed, good Christmas. Are you with me? That's looking at the downside.
Sounds great. Don't go. Just on the subject of the weekend's game, am I being unrealistic asking when a player goes to somewhere like Wembley, bearing in mind how iconic it is? I appreciate it's the new stadium now, but all the history that surrounds it. Do you find players raise their games for matches like that? Or does it not really matter? Is it a job and you just, whichever ground you go to, you do your job of football?
Yeah, I think from our point of view, you've got to do. I mean, you know, I think probably, you know, the players that other clubs have signed that are international players are probably used to that. Well, we're not. You know, we have got international players, but at a different level. But they've all got to. I think they'll all be looking forward to it. You know, you can't tell me that. You know, Sol Bamba and I go back to Junior Hoylett, that the 2 of them lads, you know, must pinch themselves, you know, when you're turning out at a place like that from where they were. But there's many people like that, you know. I think they've all got things to prove, and I think, you know, we've got 1 or 2 players that could go, you know, could maintain this, and they've got to show themselves on a weekend, because, you know, Spurs, whatever team they put out will be a great team to play against, and we've got to compete on that, and not just compete, we've got to try and find a weakness for them from their point of view for us to enable us to get the right result.
Talking about that, last couple of questions for me. Just want to speak specifically on the subject of Josh Murphy, if I may, because we were talking to him yesterday, and he was. I mean, the conversation I was having with him, both in the interview and outside of it, was a total confidence that the win is literally just on the horizon. Is that the optimism of a young player, or do you get the sense that, you know, and obviously yourself, that yeah, you're just on the cusp? Or is it just optimistic?
I think it's slightly different for a player, isn't it, than a manager, I think, really, because if the worst come to the worst, the players know they've got the contract, they'll play for somebody else. Are you with me? So it's slightly different for that, but I think it's good for people like, you know, when I first met Josh, he's always been like that, positive. And I said to him before last week's game, you know, don't let's talk a good game.
let's do a good game, and I thought he did. He was more consistent last week, should I say. That's what he's got to do now, raise the level of consistency, because if he can do that, he can be a threat for us at that level, and that's what we need. We need threats, we need goals, and he could, he's going to be an important part of us doing that, and he's a good lad as well. So it's, I think he proved to himself last week that he's more than capable, and I think irrespective of who we're playing against, if his attitude's right, he can do that against anybody, and that's what we need. You need our version of Messi. I'm sure you're not going to make a headline of that for him. Good.
He very much said that he feels that these first 8 games, well, obviously it's a given that they would have wanted to win. He feels it's been a settling-in period for a number of the players, and that's what's giving him the confidence to think, right, it's just around the corner. Is that a fair comment to make? Is it a valuable comment to make? And do you think that actually, are you happy with that they needed to settle into what they were?
Yeah, I think it's, I said to Vincent, we were talking about that, and I just said to him, people like Josh and Bobby Reid and that, you can't just come to a club, whether it's Premier League or what have you, and settle straight in. It does take you a few months. One or two players at the top level, it's taken them a season to do that. But I think you can see that they're more confident now, they're more comfortable, in Josh's terms, I think he's more relaxed. I think when you're relaxed, you can do, things become more natural to you, and rather than when you're uptight and nervous and you're always going to make a mistake. I think he's a lot more relaxed now, and I think that's what we've got to be like.
And very last one from me. He said that it's an early days in his relationship with you, that he already feels like he wants to run through brick walls for you, like a lot of your players. Getting that coming from a lot of the players. And he said the reason why is because you give them trust, and you give them trust early. Is that your secret weapon?
I think so. I mean, it's not going to be. I'm not going to lose my job or keep my job for anything other than a lack of effort's not going to affect me, because I know that the type of players that I've got, there's not one of them that won't give me everything. They might be limited and make mistakes technically, but they're not going to. They all. I think that's one of the reasons the fans are still with us as well. They appreciate that every one of them players is busting a gut to be even better. So I think they see there's limitations, but. While it's like that, then you've got to look forward and look at the next opponents, and we've got some good games coming up. I mean, difficult games, but good games, and we've got to make sure we're right to try and give them a good game, and that's the drive from me. It's it's disappointing, like last week when you play so well and you don't come away with anything. That's probably the most disappointing I've felt for a long time, because we didn't deserve. You sometimes you don't get what you deserve, and definitely last week was one of those times. But life's like that. You get kicked in the teeth. You've got to get up and do it again, and that's what we've got to do. And who's to say that in the next few games, that the top teams when we play, that we can't get a good result and surprise everybody? It's football is like that. It's strange how it kicks things up.
Let's hope it does this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a couple from me, Neil. It sounds like you've spoken to Vincent this week. Would that be correct? And
every week.
Can you just give us a kind of flavour of what was said? Because it seems normally in these scenarios when a club hasn't won a game, there may be talk on the terraces or on the TV about a manager being under pressure. I don't hear that at all. The only person talking about you being under pressure is you.
Yeah, no, I don't. Vincent, listen, if Vincent could shoot for us, he would do. That's how he's. He just wants us to shoot more. And he just wants, he wants us to do well. He was disappointed like us last week because we had so many efforts and things, and that's how it is. But you're not daft behind the scenes. You know that names are being mentioned to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Are you with me? And I'm afraid that's the reality of management, at the moment. And like I say, you've just got to keep on doing your job. And I have a conversation with him probably twice a week, and. He tells me where I'm going wrong, and but I can't do any more than what we're doing, and I don't think he can. I think he supports us and wants us to do as well as we can.
You don't get the impression he's becoming in any way impatient?
I don't know, but I mean, I don't think any manager really feels that. It just happens, doesn't it?
You know, one day you're in a job, the next day you're out. You know, it all depends on so many circumstances, really, in the Premier League in particular. You know, like I say, you do get you get so much advice from these top agents that have done it at certain clubs, and you know, it makes you think, you know, can they do it at our club? What it doesn't show you is these agents that have done well at a certain club have done absolutely terrible at other clubs with their players. Are you with me? And cost the clubs millions, and they've got no better. So sometimes the grass is not always greener, and that's the thing you speak to your owners about.
I also just wanted to ask, if I made one last one, I don't know if you saw the coverage from the game at the weekend has seemed to now centre on the fact that the ball wasn't on the pitch very much.
Yeah, so
and Sean Morrison taking his time taking throws, so that's the perception. I just wonder what your kind of...
Yeah, it looked like if Sean gets an injury to his arm, we might have to cancel the games, doesn't it? I don't... you know, I don't see anything that we're doing that's not in the laws of the game. So, but if they want to change it, that's up to them, isn't it? I think there's a few more rules they ought to change before they get to that one, if I'm honest.